All right, we are on Psalm 88. I cry out day and night before you. A song, a psalm of the sons of Korah to the choir master, according to Mahalath Leanoth, a Masco of Heman the Ezrahite. Wow. Kathy?
Think we lost Kathy. She's not in.
Oh, well, that's odd. Okay. Does it, I guess it's you, Lori. Do you have your you don't have your copy either? Thank you for noticing that, Amber.
Julie has the same.
Okay. The
I
theme.
have it.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Janet has it.
I have it too.
We
Oh,
don't.
go
When
ahead.
there is no relief in sight, God understands even our deepest misery.
So my little side note here says no one would accuse the songwriter of holding back how he really felt. He described his life as if he were in the grave. Some of the psalmist's phrasing recalls Job's story. You have caused my companions to shun me. You have made me a horror to them. I am shut in so that I cannot escape. The psalmist was experiencing separation from the blessing and favor of God. You have put me in the depths of the pit, in the regions of dark and deep, he complains to the Lord. However, while most of this psalm speaks to the writer's isolation, he still addressed God as the one who saves him. The silence of God must not be mistaken for the absence of God. That's a good, I need to highlight that. The silence of God must not be mistaken for the absence of God. Jesus felt abandoned by God at his crucifixion. This abandonment one would cry out in darkness on a wooden cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? In Matthew 27:46. Because of this, nothing in all of creation can separate God's people from his love. Romans 8:39. Jesus experienced separation from God so that his people would never have to. Kim, are you up to reading the psalm this morning?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
88. O Jehovah, God of my salvation, I have wept before you day and night. Now hear my prayers. O listen to my cry, for my life is full of troubles and death draws near. They say my life is ebbing out, a hopeless case. They have left me here to die, like those slain on battlefields from whom your mercies are removed. You have thrust me down to the darkest depths. Your wrath lies heavy on me. Wave after wave engulfs me. You have made my friends to loathe me, and they have gone away. I am in a trap with no way out. My eyes grow dim with weeping. Each day I beg your help, O Lord. I reach my pleading hands to you for mercy. 10. Soon, soon it will be too late. Of what use are your miracles when I am in the grave? How can I praise you then? Can those in the grave declare your loving kindness? Can they proclaim your faithfulness? Can the darkness speak of your miracles? Can anyone in the land of forgetfulness talk about your help? O Lord, I plead my life and will keep on pleading day by day. O Jehovah, why have you thrown my life away? Why are you turning your face from me and looking the other way? From my youth, I have been sickly and ready to die. I stand helpless before your terrors. Your fierce wrath has overwhelmed me. Your terrors have cut me off. They flow around me all day long. Lover, friend, and acquaintance, all are gone. There is only darkness everywhere. The end. Ooh, that is gloomy.
Oh man. In verse 11, mine says, is your steadfast love declared in the grave or your faithfulness in Abaddon?
No, it's in the grave. Can those in the grave declare your loving kindness?
Does anybody else have a version that reads different than hers?
Ours says
Mine says this
destruction.
in destruction.
Yeah.
So is Abaddon destruction then, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine says destruction, but the footnote says Abaddon.
Yeah.
Okay. Destruction. Any thoughts? If not, Cindy, if you're up to reading John MacArthur.
Yes. Overview, verses 1 to 18. This lament is unusual in that it does not end on a happy note. The psalmist has been ill or injured since the days of his youth and bemoans God's failure to hear his prayer for good health. He assumes that God is angry with him, but like Job, he knows of no cause for that anger. But though he does not understand God's ways, the psalmist does turn to God, thus indicating an underlying trust. 3 parts to this. First, verses 1 to 9, complaints against God's action. Verses 10 to 12, challenges to God's wisdom. Verses 13 to 18, charges against God's conduct.
Cindy, hang on. I'm trying to catch up here. Can you repeat the second one? I'm sorry.
Yes, the second, challenge to God's wisdom. That's verses 10 to 12.
Right?
Then charges against God's conduct, verses 13 to 18.
Thank you.
Mahalath is either the name of a tune or an instrument, possibly a reed pipe which was played on sad occasions. Lanath may mean to afflict and describe the despair which permeates this song. Heman the Ezrahite. Heman was a musician from the family of the Kohathites, who founded the Korahite choir. And there are references to First Chronicles on that information and Second Chronicles. He may be the same person who was one of the wise men during Solomon's reign. Reference 1 King 4:31. Ezrahite may mean native born or may be the name of a family clan. There's a reference to First Chronicles. Verse 4, go down to the pit. Pit is one of several references to the grave in this psalm. The dead, the grave, place of destruction. Verse 5, adrift among the dead. This expresses the idea that death cuts off all ties to friends and family, as well as to God. Verse 7, all your waves. Like the waves rolling onto the seashore, so God has directed trouble after trouble on the psalmist. Verse 8, put away my acquaintances. The psalmist claims that the Lord has turned his friends against him. Some see this as a quarantine experience, as from leprosy. There's a reference to Job in that. Verse 9, I waste away. This could be a description of the psalmist's tears, used as a figure for his collapse under this distress. Verse 10, wonders for the dead. The psalmist reminds God through a series of rhetorical questions that the dead cannot testify to God's goodness. Verse 14, hide your face. That is, why do you not answer my prayers? Verse 15, die from my youth. The psalmist has had some serious illness or injury from the time of his youth. And that's it.
I was just thinking about like people who have the belief like if you have enough faith, you'll be healed. If you're not healed, it's because you don't have enough faith. You know, like have they read any of this?
You hear that all the time, and I hate that.
I do too. Well, and we learned that Saul, aka Paul, had a lifelong ailment, and so did Jacob. Any other thoughts before Kathy? Kathy, do you have enough? Are you okay to read Worsley?
I think so. I'm on my phone now, so I think it'll be okay. Heman, the son of Joel, was a temple musician during the reign of David and is most likely a candidate for the authorship of this psalm. Second choice is Heman, the son of Mahol, Mahol, one of the wise men during the reign of King Solomon.
Did you say Mahal?
O-L, M-A-H-O-L.
Thank you.
The Hebrew words Mahaleth and Leneth mean sickness and for singing or for humbling. The first word, Mahaleth, probably refers to a sad melody to accompany the somber song, and the second might identify the purpose of the psalm to bring us low before the Lord. This is the last Sons of Korah psalm in the Psalms and perhaps the most plaintive song in the entire book. In the Hebrew text, the psalm ends with the word Hoshek, Hoshek, which is darkness, and there is no closing note of triumph as in other psalms that begin with pain and perplexity. The psalm speaks of darkness in verses 1, 6, 12, and 18, life in the depths in verses 3, 4, and 6, the imminence of death in verses 5 and 10 to 11, feelings of drowning in verse 7, 16, and 17, loneliness verses 5, 8, 14, and 18, and imprisonment in verse 8. Heman was a servant of God who was suffering intensely and did not understand why, yet he persisted in praying to God and did not abandon his faith. Not all of life's scripts have happy endings, but that does not mean that the Lord has forsaken us. From Heman's experience as recorded in this psalm, we can discover four instructions to follow when life falls apart and our prayers seemingly are not answered. The first one, come to the Lord by faith, verses 1 and 2. Heman's life had not been an easy one in verse 15, and now it had grown even more difficult, and he felt that death was very near. But he did not give up. He still trusted in God, whom he addressed as Lord Jehovah 4 times in this prayer. Jehovah is the name of the Lord that emphasizes his covenant relationship with his people, and Heman was a son of that covenant. Heman also addressed him as God, Elohim, the name that expresses his power. The phrase God of my salvation indicates that Heman had trusted the Lord to save him, and the fact that he prayed as he did indicates that his faith was still active. 3 times we are told that he cried to the Lord, and 3 different words are used. Verse 1, a cry for help in great distress. Verse 2, a loud shout. Verse 13, a cry of anguish. He was fervent in his praying. He believed in God who could hear his prayers and do wonders. a God who loved him and was faithful to his people. All this evidence of faith in Heman's heart, even though he spoke as though he was ready to give up. He prayed day and night and trusted that no obstacle would come between his prayers and the Lord. No matter how we feel and no matter how impossible our circumstances, we can always come to the Lord with our burdens. The second of the 4 instructions, tell the Lord how you feel, verses 3-9. There is no place for hypocrisy in personal prayer. One of the first steps toward revival is to be completely transparent when we pray and not tell the Lord anything that is not true or that we do not really mean. Heman confessed that he was full of troubles and felt like a living dead man. He was without strength and felt forsaken by the Lord. Old Testament believers did not have the full light of revelation concerning death and the afterlife, so we must not be shocked at his description of Sheol, the world of the dead. The Lord does not forget his people when they die, nor does he cease to care for. To be absent from the body means to be present with the Lord. But Heman also told the Lord that he was responsible for his servant's troubles. God's hand put him into the pit, and God's anger was overflowing. God's anger was flowing over him like breakers from the sea. Whatever sickness he had was caused by the Lord and made him so repulsive that his friends avoided him. He was without health, without light, and without friends, and he felt like he was without God. He was a prisoner, and there was no way to escape. Like Job, Heman wanted to know why all this suffering had come to him. The third one, defend your cause before the Lord, verses 10-14. The saintly Scottish minister Samuel Rutherford, who suffered much for his faith, wrote, "It is faith's work to claim and challenge loving kindness out of all the roughest strokes of God." He also said, "Why should I tremble at the plow of my Lord, that maketh deep furrows in my soul? I know he is no idle husbandman, he purposeth a crop." Heman's argument is simply that his death will rob God of a great opportunity to demonstrate his power and glory. Of what service could Heman be to the Lord in Sheol? The spirits of the dead will not rise in the world of the dead and do the Lord's bidding, but Heman could serve the Lord in the land of the living. Before he went to the sanctuary to assist in the worship, Heman prayed to the Lord for healing and strength, and at the close of a busy day, he prayed again. During his daily ministry, he heard priestly benediction. "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance on you and give you peace." Numbers 6:24-26. But the blessing did not come to him. He felt rejected and knew that God's face was turned away from him, but he kept on praying. The third one, wait for the Lord's answer, verses 15-18. We do not know what this affliction was that came to him early in life, but it is painful to think that he suffered all his life long and all day long. He could not even look back to time in his life when he enjoyed good health. The billows that had almost drowned him now became fiery waves of torment as God's burning anger went over him. The flood was rising and he felt he was about to drown, and there was nobody near enough to rescue him. He was alone. The darkness was his friend because it hid him from the eaves of those who observed his sufferings and may have said, as did Job's friends, "He must have sinned greatly for the Lord to afflict him so much." But he continued to pray and to look to God for help. "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." Job 13:5. I would have despaired unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Yes, wait for the Lord. Psalm 27:13-14. The Lord always has the last word, and it will not be darkness. We should never doubt in the darkness what God has taught us in the light. That's it.
Nancy, could you please repeat verses 10 to 14? It was defend your what before the Lord?
Defend your cause before the Lord.
Okay, thank you.
Any thoughts on this so far? I find it interesting at the end, like I circled all that, like he was blaming God for all of it. He's like, your tears, your wrath, you're dreadful, you have caused. And then like at the end of 18, you have caused my beloved, my friend to shun me, my companions have become darkness. My little side note says, darkness has become my only companion. All right. Tony is fairly short on this too. The heading of the psalm indicates that it was composed by Heman the Ezrahite. 1 through 9. The psalmist desired divine aid in the midst of his affliction. Therefore, he cries to the Lord day and night so that his prayer might enter his presence. His troubles are so intense that he felt he was about to go to Sheol, the place of the dead. In a sense, he feels that he was already lying in the grave, forsaken by God. The source of his despair was God's wrath, which overwhelmed him like violent waves crashing on a shore. Even his friends found him repulsive and kept their distance from him. Nevertheless, he would not cease crying out to God all day long. 10 to 12. Heman reasons that if God let him die, he couldn't praise him for his faithful love and wonders. He wants God's deliverance so that he could declare his glory on this side of the grave. 13 through 18. Again, he laments his affliction and the inaction of God to answer his prayers. Again, he points to his suffering under the wrath of God. Again, he despairs that loved ones avoided him. Hopelessness surrounds him. Darkness is his only friend. Yet, in spite of his emotional turmoil, he continued to pray. Sometimes we must pray through affliction and uncertainty. When God appears unresponsive, our feelings lead us to despair. Our faith in God's character and past actions must push us forward. I like that last paragraph. Any other commentaries, thoughts? Anything need repeated?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
That's exactly, Lori, what I was just going to say.
I know, Rita.
Thing that came to my mind.
There, I guess if you all your life have been in that position, you would like I can't imagine, like you go through periods of time where you feel like, oh, is God there, or am I ever going to get through this? But to go through something all your life.
In my Bible for verse 1, it says, I don't know if anybody read this or not. Have you felt as though you have hit bottom? The psalmist is so low that he even despairs of life itself. Although everything is bad and getting worse, he is able to tell it all to God. This is one of the few psalms that gives no answer or expression of hope. Don't think that you must always be cheerful and positive. Grief and depression take time to heal. No matter how low we feel, we can always take our problems to God and express our anguish to him. And I like the part where it says, don't think you always must be cheerful and positive, because I think there's times people think we should be, even when we don't feel it, and we don't know what's going on in people's lives when you see them down or whatever, but they still expect you to, not everybody, but a lot of people just expect you to just be cheerful and get over it.
Yeah, and then I feel like too, like then that is what creates an unauthentic church. Because like if you walk in, and I was a part of one of those churches, if you walk in and everybody's lives are perfect all the time, and nobody has marriage problems, and nobody has health problems, and everything's just perfect, then you like you're gonna feel like you have to be too, and then you're not really dealing in reality. And I feel like too, like being able to share those times with your brothers and sisters, that's what the church should be doing is holding each other up. I mean, I don't think we stay in something and wallow in it, but we like everybody goes through loss or health issues or whatever.
Yeah, and I think it's like you said, it's unauthentic because in reality, everybody goes through to some extent, some worse than others,
Mhm.
and I think we all sometimes, like, if I'm feeling down, I tell myself there's somebody worse off than me. I don't know where, but there is, you know, and it's just reality that we all go through something.
Yeah, and then when do you build the relationships? I feel like you build those close relationships when you are going through things and those people love you and or you're loving them, whatever the case may be. Like that's when you're building trust and true relationship.
So, whenever they say you lose one of your senses, other ones get stronger. And I feel that is so true with Ron because when I went up there one day, we were talking and he put his arms on his hands on my shoulders and he said, "You're struggling, aren't you?" And I said, "I'm just really frustrated." I said, "It just doesn't seem like it can catch a break, and I was wallowing in my own sorrow. And he said, "I can tell." He said, "I can tell in your voice. I can tell, and just, he's such a good friend. He is such a good friend. But he just stopped right then and there and prayed with me. And just the fact that he was able, even though he couldn't see my face, he could tell it in my voice, could tell it in whatever he sensed. But yeah, so
And you felt loved and cared for, and you were able to be honest about how you were feeling.
yeah, and I just think, in this psalmist where he has no friends, how dark that is. That would be, yeah, yeah.
I was reading in my devotion this morning, and it was basically talking about similar things. How God had emotions, and we being made in God's image are going to share those emotions, and we should not deny ourselves that and feel guilty. It did say the only emotions God does not have is despair, bitterness, and fear, which I thought was interesting. This is a devotional, though, that I don't know where that would be in scripture, but and then also just to be mindful every time we're experiencing maybe like distance in a friendship, or like we've been abandoned, or we've been whatever, to try to put our that's probably most likely something that God has gone through already, or that Christ experienced as well, and to just try to relate to, wow, I'm probably, these feelings I'm having are probably the same feelings that Jesus was feeling when that happened to him, or the jealousy that God feels when people are praising other idols, and things like that.
Hmm. That's good thoughts. Yeah, I guess he wouldn't have fear because he's in control. He created it all.
Well, if we're fearing something, it's not of God. God doesn't want us to be fearful. He wants us, to trust in Him.
Yeah.
But I hadn't thought about it that way. The bitterness, despair, and fear.
Mhm.
So why don't we?
Hard not to be fearful.
I know. And despaired and, all of those things. And bitter. I mean, even every one of those, we're human.
Any other thoughts? Well, I don't think we have enough time to go into the next one because the next one is very long. I thought this one was going to be long, but it actually had short commentary.
Turn that over here. So you're going to answer the question. Oh, maybe I won't.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else to add for the good of this Bible study today, we're going to go to our trivia question. So unmute.
I think we should all mute and just let Lori and
Yeah.
Julie answer the question.
Everybody will know this one. Everybody will know this one. All right, we're all up. Okay, here we go. Where was Saul? Jody, do you play the trivia question when you were watching on After the Fact?
No, I just listen.
Oh, okay. Frankie competes against us. So, where was Saul going when a light shined from heaven and the Lord spoke to him?
Damascus.
Yeah, all of you get gold stars. Damascus is correct. You can read about that in Acts 9, 3 and 4. And this concludes reading of God's word for today until Monday.
For sure.
For sure and for certain.
All right, enjoy your weekend. Love you all.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.